Morning, you guys. Come on in. Hopefully, the volume is good. Welcome. Thanks for joining. Good afternoon, everyone. Shout out to you. What's up, that my girl Brittany? How are you? So, time now. It's about 12:35, almost 1 p.m. in the afternoon Eastern, where I am. So, I didn't want to come in here and do this reading. I really didn't. But this energy has been bothering me all night long since early this morning. And right about now, you guys are probably well aware of Sarah Guthrie and her family and her mom, Nancy, and the whole situation that's been all over social media, all over, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, TikTok. And I didn't want to come in here and do this reading because I kept picking up on this energy this morning. And I didn't want people to think, am I losing my mind? Am I going crazy? Am I hallucinating, right? Because I kept picking up on the energy and I said, okay, well, I don't want to go live. I don't want to do a reading because I don't want to put no negative energy out in the air, right? Even though I know I'm gifted in certain areas of my life, even though I've been able to channel energy for over 30 years, my channel spirit is what I do, is what I'm gifted at. Even when I choose to walk away and leave it alone because I don't want no parts of it. But then I'm spiritually led to tap in. And as I sat here and her energy kept coming at me, I said, okay, maybe I need to get up and I need to tap back in, because everything that I kept picking up on, little by little, details, here and there. And last night, when I started shuffling the cards and the energy, and I started, doing the prayer and the cleansing, I started asking Spirit, okay, show me what it is I need to be aware of, show me what it is I need to know concerning the situation. I called upon my spirit angels, my spirit guides, my spirit ancestors. I asked the Heavenly Father to use me as a vessel to speak through me, speak clearly, give me clarity, honesty, and understanding. Keep it simple, make it relatable, make it so I can understand what it is that's being said. And as I began to shuffle these cards dealing with the disappearing and the abduction of Sarah Guthrie's mom, Nancy, and the whole family, Sarah's sister, Annie, the brother, the brother-in-law, her mom's deceased husband. Because Nancy Guthrie, she was born on January 27, 1942. She's a few years older than my own mom. And I got to thinking, I said, well, damn, because my mother lives alone in her house too, right? But our house is not a mansion, it's not big like Nancy's house is. And I started saying to myself, because she's in the Arizona area, and where she live at, when the sun goes down, it gets very, very dark, very, very dark. Um, and it was just weird because she just celebrated her 84th birthday on January the 27th. And shortly after her birthday celebration, it wasn't long, like what, 3, 4 days after that, February 1st. Um, from what I understand, her home was invaded between the hours of 2:30 and 3 a.m. Um, she went to visit her daughter for dinner. They had a birthday dinner where a Uber picked Sarah's mom, Nancy, up and carried her over to her daughter Annie's house, to her son-in-law house, where she had dinner or get together. And then later on, and I believe they said that the Uber came and picked her up around 5ish. And around 9:45 or so, that the other daughter, Annie, along with her husband, brought her home, dropped her off, and that the garage was open because that was the door that she often would use. She would go in through the garage door, and they said later on at night that her cameras was disconnected, the Wi-Fi, so her security system, all that was completely disconnected. There was some blood stains and drops at the front door and back door. They believe she was carried out the front door. Um, I know they had several FBI agencies and police officers and sheriffs and detectives go over to the sister Annie's house. They did a 3-hour search there, took pictures, came out with some things, some evidence, then went back to Nancy's home the first time. They didn't stay long. They took the tape down. They went back 2 days later, did a full investigation, and now they back out there at Nancy's home. And so anyway, long story short, as I sat here and I was tapping into the energy of Nancy, and I said to myself, what would make somebody, you know, as a woman, live in a dark, secluded place? Okay, we know that people tend to lurk, they tend to spy, stalk. We get it, right? But they said she's been living in this community for almost 50 years. This is the home where her kids grew up at. This is the home she shared with her husband before he passed away. There was neighbors in the community who said they've been there over 25 years. This was a very well, gated community. They felt safe. They felt protected. They're not used to having nothing like this take place in the community. Um, so, I said, okay, well, why would something like this happen? Because at first they said it was a ransom, that, was two ransom letters, notes that was sent in to TMZ of the social media, Instagram. They said they arrested one guy because they said the first ransom note was fake, and that the second one kind of gave some information concerning a smashed Apple Watch. Um, I saw the little interview briefing that they did with the Guthrie family, them requesting information that so that they could pay off the ransom, let them see their mom's alive. So as I sat here and I'm shuffling the cards and I'm saying to myself, who, what, why, where, what happened, speak to me, use me as a vessel, speak to me, spirit. And I'm sitting here asking myself, okay, Nancy, why would this happen? Who did this? Immediately, she started speaking of a gambling debt, that somebody had some sort of gambling issues, or they gambled, taking some sort of risk. Um, that this was an inside job, that the people who did this, I asked her, was it one person or more than one? It was more than one person. Getting that one of the people in particular, this is somebody, and this could be one and the same person. I'm not sure. I'm just going to explain it how I'm getting it, okay? I'm getting here that, yeah, it was a male, a man, perhaps two. One of them uh, worked not too far from where she stayed at. I'm getting this is somebody who worked on cars, or she said something about a parked car, or worked on cars, car detail. Somebody who would help work fix up cars, or a fixer upper. This is somebody who she was familiar with, that knew her husband, that would help detail or fix her husband's cars or whatever. Worked with cars or something about parked cars. Um, why would they come and try to abduct her? If they were gonna come and do like how some people will make it look like an interest of robbery. Sometimes people will go into a home and make it like a robbery. They delete the person, but in this case here, they didn't execute her at home. You know what I'm saying? They said that even though this could have been a forced situation where somebody uh, forced their way into her home, they didn't take anything. So their intentions was to go in there in her home. I feel as though she was startled. She woke up. She discovered everything was dark. Her pacer that was connected to her as an emergency alert system was completely disconnected. I felt as though the person who came in there, when I asked what was they looking for, I was getting something about the record to the deed to the house, um, something about wanting her to give a code or giving the information to the safe of the house because she knew where the safe was. But in this particular, instance here, it caught her off guard. And I felt like she was like, well, take what you want, just leave me, don't touch me, leave me. I felt like it was some sort of a scuffle. It's something about the deed to the house. Why would somebody want the deed to a house? I felt like there was some sort of competition between both of her daughters, between Annie and Sarah, because we all know that Sarah is a news anchor. She's a millionaire. I feel like her daughter Annie and with her husband has some issues, financial issues. And I felt as though somebody was trying to falsify some sort of documents. Um, they couldn't leave her in the home that they had invaded her privacy in. They couldn't leave her there alive because they knew she was going to talk. She was going to tell them what happened. So they couldn't leave her there alive. I felt like from what I'm seeing here, I feel as though she got startled. I feel as though somebody put some sort of a mask around her entire face, her head, like a black velour bag over her face with a string, telling her to be quiet. If she be quiet, don't say nothing, you know what I'm saying? Telling her to be quiet, you know and we can make this easy or whatever. I feel as though when they tried to put this thing over her face, her head, I feel as though she tried to take her teeth and she tried to bite down on them, on the hand. I feel like the mother wears dentures and she tried to bite through the velour thing and she could have bit the hand because I feel like this person could have swung on her when she went to bite down on the hand. Um, I am seeing abrasion marks on the hands, wrists, feet, legs, ankle, knees. Um, I'm getting that maybe she was tied up. It was very dark, you know, because they would say that she was forced out, she was dragged out, that perhaps she was bleeding because she suffered within blood and that the pacer was disconnected from her. But I feel as though as they was carrying her out the house that she bumped her head, that her head was bumped. I do see that. Um, when I asked, are you still breathing? Are you still, you're still alive? It's been 8 days. She doesn't have her medication. She doesn't have her phone. She doesn't have her pacemaker. Everything's been disconnected. Um, because at first I was like, okay, are they gonna find you in this wooded area? I feel like they're looking in the wrong place. I feel like the son-in-law knows exactly what's going on because he's the one who had the gambling addiction. I feel as though this was a situation that was paid that went about it in the wrong way. Um, and when I asked her where about is the location, I kept getting something about an open road intersection. I kept getting something about an abandoned building or warehouse. I kept getting attic. I was getting, um, she was put up in some sort of a warehouse attic. And then I heard other people mention something about a basement. I'm getting something about not far from a temple. I was getting that, whatever road they carried her on, open road, intersection, um, a place where people wouldn't think to look because the house sits far back. It almost gives an abandonment, an old house from back in the day, similar to what a plantation would look like. except this is given like a brownish, like a warehouse, an old house. Um, this has some sort of an attic or a basement. I feel as though this is where they took her to because I feel like I see her when they put her in this car, this van. She's on the floor, she's tied, but they don't want to put her in the back seat, possible in the trunk or a possible van, but on the floor nonetheless of the car or the van. She kept saying something like attic, open road, intersection, not far from a temple. You know, I'm getting a warehouse or old house. It could be near a warehouse, an old abandonment warehouse. I kept getting attic, or perhaps was going upstairs in her attic. Um, I feel like when I kept asking, are they going to find her? Um, what I was getting was by the time her body is discovered, it's going to be somewhat decomposed. Um, I feel as though somebody else is going to come across her body and they are going to be the one that's going to call 911. Um, or perhaps a helicopter may take notice whether they choose to bring her body and put it behind a house or a building not far from a temple because it gets so dark in Arizona. It's almost like you could pretty much go outside and dig a grave and bury somebody alive because that's how dark it is. Because at first I kept saying, well, is she buried in the ocean, a lake, a pond? And I'm getting no. You know what I'm saying? She's not. Um, I feel like whatever road they took when it came to getting toward this intersection, because an intersection coming to a road shaped in the letter of a T. Because she was giving me like it's giving appearance of going down a road where there's a farm, like it could give appearance of a farm, green grass, space, property, land. But this is something like wanting to falsify documents. Again, I kept getting that this has to do with somebody who was looking for the record deed of the house. This has to do with, like I said, somebody who was gambling their losses, financial debt. Somebody could have perhaps took a loan off a house and they didn't have the money to pay off the house or whatever the case may be. They got themselves in some sort of corporate trouble um, where they could have owed, and she was aware of this. I even feel as though there was a conversation that was had where she could have mentioned to her daughter or her daughters. It could have been a conversation where she was trying to tell her daughter to get away from her husband, that you need to divorce him, you know, because he's going to bring her down because of his substance abuse. But I also feel like the daughter also has some issues of her own. And there was always some sort of competition between Sarah and Annie. But I do feel as though there will be some sort of um, tracking device on the husband's car as far as like mileage gas is going to show how far he drove his car. There's cameras between Circle K and other stores. It was on a Sunday night, Sunday morning, 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. I do feel as though the police and FBI is going to check the mileage to see the distance, you know. Um, because when I asked, were there footsteps outside the house, tire marks, I was told no, because the driveway is gravel, right? Because I even asked, people who are doing detective work. I've been speaking to people all night last night. And I'm like, well, there has to be some sort of footprint. And they said not outside because it's gravel. And even the blood drops on the brick, the red, yeah, but in Arizona they said the heat or something is different. It would be hard to pick up on blood on the ground. But then I said, well, why not? Why didn't they bring the K9 units when they first, got word that she was missing? Because now they have the K9, the bloodhound units is out in the woods areas. And then the thing that was weird was that last night there were several coyotes that kept barking, and there were several police sirens, and drones and helicopters in the air, and the coyotes kept barking and just making noise and screaming out loud last night. And I thought that was really, really weird that it was so many coyotes and so many dogs, and they were just out there, um, like how werewolves be making that noise. You know what I'm saying? It was just so many coyotes in the air, like just screaming out, and it was crazy. And so, even when I asked, is it possible that they will return her back alive? I'm like, no, because they know that if they bring her back, if they will return her alive and breathing, she's gonna tell. And they don't want her to speak. So therefore, they're forced to have to silence her because she is aware of what's going on. Um, I do feel as though there's some sort of duct tape, mouth wise, neck injury. Um, but yeah, she will be found. But she has health issues. She's 84. She has heart issues. In whatever form they got her covered up in, whether it's a bag, because I was getting something about a hamper bag, or maybe a blanket, but something that they use to cover her up. And if it's hot, her body's going to decompose rather quickly because, white people tend to decompose a lot quicker than black people, especially in a severe case that involves this type of situation. So I feel as though she's going to be found, but it's not going to be near her home because, like I said, wherever she is, um, she's giving me open road T intersection, not far from a temple, because I kept getting warehouse, abandonment, farm area, so it could give an appearance of a farm area where there's a lots of grass, old country homes, rusted old country homes that look like warehouse appearance. Because she herself, she's an Aquarius. She was also the breadwinner of the family. She was the one who held the family together. Gatherings, the mother, tight knit family. But there's always been a bit of disagreements between the daughters and something with the son-in-law. Uh, my heart goes out to Sarah. I don't understand why they would even though I later discovered that they said that her mother did have some sort of nurse caregiver, or housekeeper that would come into the home and check on her and clean the house because it's a mansion home. Although me personally, I feel like the mom was too old to be living alone because on this particular night nobody was home but her. So this was definitely an inside job where she was set up. I do feel like the brother-in-law is going to definitely be brought in for questioning. Him and the wife, him and Annie are both going to be brought in for questioning. I do feel that that's going to happen. Because it's something about the phone records. Again, the phone records. I feel like the police are going to be able to trace some sort of information between a cell phone, a burner phone. They're going to be able to trace some sort of information that's going to come across the phone. Whether this is through an email or text or whatever the case may be, they're going to be able to trace it. And they probably already have. And they're going to find paperwork showing that Annie and her husband are in debt and that they owe money and that they are financially behind. They're going to see that. Even though it's given appearance as though the family is rich and wealthy, I feel as though Annie and her husband, the son-in-law, was going through some financial debt. And I feel like the police and the FBI got those documents. And the reason why they took his car is because they're looking for evidence to see if he did any particular cleaning inside the car. Because she was taken away in the car, they're going to see if there's any sort of scratch marks or flesh or because I feel like when they do find her up underneath her nails, they're gonna examine skin marks and that sort of thing. I also feel like when they bring him in, because there does seem to be some sort of a tight grip somewhere between her hands. I feel like Sarah, the oldest daughter, is the one who has a lot of her mother's information put away, sealed away. And so what they did to her, they did it for nothing. And I feel like this was on done maliciously for some sort of life insurance policy, hoping that Annie would be able to collect and that they would be able to clear their debt. But like I said, I do feel as though she will be found. But when they find her again, there's going to be some abrasions. And the abrasions is going to be, like I said, toward the hands, the wrists, the feet, leg, knee area. I'm getting neck injury. So there's an injury with her neck, perhaps strangulation. When they put whatever they put over her face, and she could have possibly even had a heart attack in this. But there's going to be some abrasion marks between the hands, the wrists, the feet, the legs. Yes, I do see that. Because, like I said, her head was banged, whether it was accidentally, but yeah, I saw that. Will the son in law get charged? I know he's going to be brought in for questioning. Um, But this is going to definitely be drawn out. I feel like when they find her, by the time they find her, it's going to be about, or I do feel as though she's transitioned, you know, or she's in the process of transitioning. I feel like the FBI or the police are going to find some sort of a handkerchief at the scene of the crimes, a handkerchief, some sort of handkerchief. I also feel as though there was some sort of a gold chain that was snatched. I feel like there was some sort of a gold chain or a gold bracelet that was snatched and popped. I feel like there was a gold chain snatched, handkerchief at the scene of the crime, handkerchief, facial mask. Um, and whoever did this was wearing a button-down shirt. Yeah. I feel like it's going to be some sort of evidence that's going to come out where maybe the daughter's going to get charged. You know, because like I said, I feel like I see the daughter being handcuffed and put in the back of a police car. So I do feel as though Annie may get charged for this. You know, I see her with handcuffs on. Like I said, this could definitely be an inside job. But I'm going to leave it there. But Virgos, I will come back and give you guys a reading. Okay. But yeah, that's the energy I was picking up on this here situation. And so, with that being said, spirit angel, spirit ancestor, spirit guides, I'm going to release this here energy and the cleansing. I pray to God that Miss Nancy is found. Condolences to the family. I pray to God they find her in the right location. I pray to God that wherever this temple may be, or this road of fatigue, this intersection, this road that has an appearance of a country road or a farm area appearance, warehouse, or old building, or whatever the case may be. I pray to God that they check the attic and the basement, or whatever the case may be. I pray to God that they do find her, to able to retrieve her in time, at least bring her body home to the family so they can lay her to rest. So, with that being said, love and light, you guys. God bless. I'm out.